By coincidence, two things dropped into my inbox on the same day. The first was the IPCC's Bleak Synthesis Report, self-described as a survival guide for humanity. The second was an invitation to tender for the delivery of a development programme to help the leaders of one of our key institutions to lead differently in relation to its net zero strategy. The IPCC report is a final call, putting us on official notice that the living world is now lurching into apocalyptic territory. In the words of UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once. The tender document is a case study in why we've arrived at this perilous place despite numerous red ink warnings. Actually, it's not a tender document. It's a PQQ, a pre-qualification questionnaire. Its purpose is to weed out the chaff and to ensure that only wheat-like applicants apply for the prized contract which will be awarded to the MEAT, the MEAT, most economically advantageous tender. I kid you not. It begins with a 2-page description of the programme's purpose, and on the surface, it looks good. The next 50 pages, yes, 50, are what I call the slide rule, a list of requirements to pre-qualify applicants who will then be qualified to be considered. It's enough to discourage anyone but the strongest heads for bureaucratic hoop jumping. Now, as it happens, I once knew this organisation intimately. About 30 years ago, our small company held the contract for their internal media and communication work, long before internal communication departments were even conceived. We were part of the generation of practitioners who invented an entirely new discipline. And today, there isn't a respectable mid-sized company without an internal comms function. Now, that's a real-world example of innovation in organisational development. I remember our work with this organisation as one of those really graced professional experiences. We had great freedom to respond creatively to the company's needs, often rewriting the brief when our research showed they'd identified the wrong problem or the wrong solution. Our client-side relationship was with an absolutely stellar corporate affairs manager, a public servant in the very best sense of that word, and a trusted advisor to the two equally admirable CEOs we dealt with during that period. He was a man of deep integrity, with the self-confidence to make space for creativity and emergence. He was also professionally brave, willing to take a chance, trust his gut and us, and protect the creative process from the worst impacts of bureaucracy. The result was multi-award-winning work that made a real difference, work we were really, really proud of. It was win, win, win all the way. Now, here's the thing. When we met him, we had just set up our little company, and he was our first real client. We were completely broke, with no track record of our own. But he sat in our newly painted office on our brand new couch, unfazed by our bits and bobs piled on cardboard boxes. He watched a showreel of our previous work, listened to our passionate pitch about creativity and communication and relationships, and then he gave us a chance. For a whole decade, that relationship and our work flourished until the iron grip of the slide rule and the hollowing out effects of the profit-first motive loomed over all of us. Disillusioned by what he saw coming down the tracks, ego-driven, bottom-line focused leadership, he closed the door on a 25-year career and bailed out, while we chose not to reapply for a contract that was now buried beneath bureaucracy and stealthily managed by safe hands. The PQQ tells me that we made the right decision. The slide rule is in the driving seat. The machine has won, and not just in this organization, because what's remarkable about this document is how unremarkable it is. It is a 50-page rejection of reality and a living example of why we're in such deep, deep trouble. Everything about it demonstrates a complete misunderstanding of how life really works and how change really happens. It assumes that organizations work like machines, organized and controlled from the top down. It assumes that leadership capacity and organizational intelligence is vested in particular positions and the individuals who hold them. It assumes that change is incremental, linear, predictable, measurable. It creates the illusion of safety. But of course, nothing is more dangerous than denying reality. It will almost certainly surface a winner that satisfies the organization's BAU, business as usual, priorities, and maintains an SASG, steady as she goes, corporate culture. In short, this process is designed to attract OPJLU, other people just like us, practically ensuring that the worldview, the assumptions, mindsets, and practices that have taken the living world to the brink remain blissfully undisturbed. It's a virtual case study in the root cause of our many-headed crisis and the near complete corporate domestication of what we now routinely call our climate emergency without a shred of angst or irony. We seem more concerned with conserving our way of life and our comfortable routines, careers, salaries, and pensions than conserving life itself. In off-the-record conversations, organizational insiders will admit to ticking boxes by establishing initiatives that allow their company to claim to be doing something to follow through on pledges and commitments, while the code red alert from the IPCC is stark evidence that none of this comes remotely close to what's required. The myth that we can somehow stage manage our way through this polycrisis is actually part of the crisis, yet another symptom of its root cause. Conventional, top-down, linear, incremental approaches are wholly inadequate responses to whole system, non-linear, wicked issues that will never yield to this way of working. This moment is called an emergency for a reason. If the IPCC report tells us anything, it's that we don't have time to indulge in conventional programs that cannot deliver change at scale. To change an entire system, we need everyone working on everything, everywhere, all at once. Nothing short of a movement for change. Whole system change calls for massive organizational innovation. We need to convene whole systems and collaborate around dilemmas that no institution can address alone. We need brave spaces and brave people who are willing to liberate the leadership capacity that resides in every single one of us. People who will take down conceptual walls and unleash the human capacity that's stifled inside organizational machines everywhere, giving people the freedom to bring their concerns, their creativity, skills, passions, and intelligence to the work of our time. We need to empower them to take risks and allow them to fail and support them as they learn how to change the whole system, not on training courses, but in their everyday 9-to-5 work, where our decisions are now determining the destiny of an entire planet. The bridge between the inevitable collapse of our current system under the weight of business as usual and a much better version of the future, the bridge is us. We either walk mindfully and deliberately into a new era of cultural and organizational innovation, driven by shared questions, not false answers, or we perish. Imagine what we might unleash if we had the courage to develop our people and our organizations for a very different purpose in a totally different way.